On Thursday, June 8th, a group of leaders from the local arts and nonprofit communities converged on the Bennington Museum to take part in a second community conversation, a follow-up to one held this past February at the Manchester Community Library. The idea was to bring members of the various community organizations together to trade ideas and learn more about what each one was doing or thinking about, said the museum's executive director, Martin Mahoney.
If you have a bunch of people from the not-for-profit community in our area come together and interact, and that's wonderful. But it might be groups that work with homelessness. They might work for housing, or they might work for the arts, and there's usually not a lot of interaction in our small little bubble. So we can show the intersectionality of all of our efforts and our missions and how we can support one another.
The keynote speech launching the community conversation was given by Susan Evans McClure, the executive director of the Vermont Arts Council. She talked about the work of the Arts Council, what it did, the importance of the creative economy to the overall state economy, and its recovery from the COVID pandemic.
So who is the Vermont Arts Council? We are Vermont's designated state arts agency, and we're also an independent nonprofit. In fact, of all of the state arts agencies, every state and a few territories have arts agencies. Of all of them, we're the only state arts agency that is not part of state government. We are a separate nonprofit. We work very closely with the state, though. So since 1965, the council has been the primary funder for the arts in Vermont. We're also the state affiliate for the National Endowment for the Arts, which means that federal funds flow to Vermont through us from the National Endowment for the Arts. Our work is really based on the understanding that the arts transform individual lives. They connect people more deeply to each other, they energize the economy, and they sustain the vibrant cultural landscape that makes Vermont a great place to live, work, and visit. So what we do at the Arts Council is we invest in artists and the creative process, in arts integrated learning, in K through 12 classrooms, and in early childhood education and lifelong learning. We work and support cultural organizations that engage audiences, and we work directly with creatives across the region in providing opportunities for outstanding creative experiences. So a thriving creative sector is not only important for our well-being as individuals and communities, but it's also core to the sustainable economic development and thriving communities in Vermont.
We caught up with Susan Evans McClure after her speech for some additional comments.
There's so many opportunities for the arts and culture sector to continue to work together and to grow together and to understand our collective impact, right? To understand how all of these pieces of the creative economy work together, and we can help increase the economic infrastructure of the whole state. I think there's also incredible opportunities for the arts and culture sector to get involved in kind of things that are considered non-traditional arts things, right? To make sure that the arts and culture have a seat at the table so that we can be bringing creativity to solving some of the biggest challenges that the state is facing. I think some of the challenges that we're facing are similar to many sectors. Continued stress, financial stress, continued not really knowing what's going on in the future. COVID is hopefully behind us, but we're still in recovery mode and still trying to figure out what comes next for a lot of these organizations, and how do we weather the next storm? And hopefully it won't be a storm like we had before, but we need to be ready. And the Arts Council will continue to be advocating for state and federal and private funding to support the arts sector, but it is going to look a lot different than it did during the days of COVID relief funding. So we'll be looking forward to working across the sector to make sure that people are ready for that and are planning for it and are really doing a great job of telling our stories of what makes the arts and culture a vital part of Vermont.
After her speech, the attendees broke up into breakout sessions to discuss various topics. Those topics covered a wide range of issues. One of the groups focused on the role of social media for nonprofits. Ty Paquette of the Bennington County Habitat for Humanity led that breakout conversation.
If you look at your social media and you're wondering your engagement is low, just know that a 1% engagement is fantastic. So after the last community conversation at the Manchester Library, it was very obvious that the nonprofits in the area could benefit from just talking to each other, using each other's resources when possible, and sharing ideas, what they've struggled with, see if anybody else has similar experiences. Because why go at it alone if you have a support network like this. So after the last one, I went ahead and created a Facebook group called Volunteer in Vermont for all Vermont organizations to post volunteer opportunities, because there really wasn't anything like that. And the guys that were making this event possible saw that and asked me to do a breakout session and a talk on social media. So we were able to chat, about 10 of us that all have social medias as a nonprofit, and bounce ideas off of each other, which was fantastic.
One of the people attending the event was Lorna Matern, the executive director of the United Counseling Service, which offers an array of social service programs to help area residents. Given the mental pressures many have faced during the COVID pandemic, the arts have an important role to play in the reemergence from the pandemic, she said.
Art plays a huge role in helping people to express themselves. We use it with children who may draw their anger or draw what their anxiety looks like when they can't use their words to describe it. People who have substance use disorder often use it to express also their story, their trauma and their history and how substance use has affected them. We've used art in many ways, whether it's drawing or writing out a story, as a way to be able to express feelings and history and all of those things that sometimes people have a really hard time expressing.
The Bennington Museum and Manchester Community Library are hoping to make these conversations a regular event, perhaps one every 3 months or so. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.